It's September 12th, 2011. Bobby St. John, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Gordy. Yourself?
I'm doing great. I was going to say, where are we? But we're in Champlain, he tells me, right outside the village, not far from the village.
Right.
In a place that I never heard of, but you've known about it all your life. Frog Pond?
Frog Pond or Frog Farm. It goes by both names. From where the original owner with Emil Neunfeldt.
Oh, that was his name, Emil Neunfeldt?
Yep.
I saw the date, 1937. Significant for me because I was born that year on June 15th. Significant also because it was the year that the Hindenburg crashed and blew up in Lakehurst, New Jersey, and there was some talk about that being sabotage, and on and on and on.
I remember hearing that.
The mystery still continues, even though that happened years before you were
before I was born.
But, and my childhood evokes tremendous memories of frog legs. I don't know if you have ever eaten any frog legs.
Oh, yes. Lots, and I still enjoy them.
I do, too. When I grew up as a kid, and my mother would give us a little pan and a pound of lard, and we'd sharpen a stick and head out in the woods and live on frog legs and cook them over a fire. And then many years later, we would take the family and go up to Saint Jean, Quebec, and have a little frog leg. All you can eat. I forgot what night of the week, but they hated to see us coming because they just brought trays and trays.
Is that one of the Chinese restaurants up there?
Just wonderful.
Yeah.
So anyway, what's your involvement with this place?
Well, at this point, my wife and I own the place.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's we purchased it from my mother and gave her a life lease here to be able to stay here once my stepfather passed away. So we bought the place. My mother and stepfather owned it. So your mom lives in a house here? And
yes.
This house has been here since 1937, yes.
No kidding?
Yep.
And now we have another building.
That's where they had sold a couple acres to my daughter, and she moved her little double wide up here.
I love it.
She lives right next door. So
what a beautiful spot this is.
It's
how did you happen to get in to buy it in the first place? First of all, I should say that the late Bob Venn and Calvin Castine a long time ago came and did a TV show here, 1994. That's 17 years ago already. A lot of water over the proverbial and the real dam since that time.
At that time, Ron Marquardt, who was my stepfather, he's the one that he purchased it from his mother and father. So it goes back, and they had gotten, it goes back to with the Neunfeldts, and then I got a sheriff's deed where it was for a woman that we can get into later or whatever. I have the history of it.
Wow.
And then Clifford and Della LaPlante owned it, and then Ron's mother and father bought it from them, and then it just progressed. And then when Ron passed away in 2001, then that's when my wife and I purchased it, so that way she'd have a place to stay for the rest of her life.
I wouldn't be surprised if most of our viewers now have no idea that somebody's got to raise the frogs that go on those, that go on those tables in fancy restaurants all over the place. And back in the 1930s, that was a big deal to raise frogs and send them all over the world?
All over the United States.
United States?
Yep. Yeah, they sent them out to Chicago, San Francisco, New York, even they'd send them up to Montreal. So it was quite the operation from what I have gathered.
Anybody who's been on the Perry's Mills Road probably knows about it. They might have seen the sign that says since 1937 out by the road. But the actual dam, this whole area has changed a little bit over the years.
Oh, yes.
Thanks to Mother Nature and a few other things.
Yeah, Mother Nature. It was originally, this was called the Whiteside Dam. And it was the Whitesides that owned all this property around here. And so in 94, the dam was in such disrepair and, crumbling. And they had this is one of the breeding grounds for the lampreys.
Oh.
And so they'd treat it each year with chemicals or whatever. Well, it got to a point where they couldn't keep them out because there were so many holes in the dam, and that they were going through it and then up in the river, and then reproducing there, laying the eggs in that. So then in '94, DEC and Fish and Wildlife, they decided to build a new dam. So they came in and they put up their little coffer dams and everything, and rebuilt the whole dam right straight through. And that was to try and control the lampreys, is what it was. So.
And there have been changes since then.
Yes, they used to have an angle iron that used to go about halfway down the face of the dam,
right,
to try and keep the lamprey from going up. But then in the spring, when you get these trees, or any time of flood, they come down and they would hit the angle iron, take it out.
Yeah.
So what they did last year was they contracted through Jefford Steel out of Plattsburgh, and they put steel plates all on the top of the dam, drilled down, and then bolted them down into the face. They stick out about 4 inches beyond the dam, so that way it'll keep the lamprey from coming up, and it doesn't get taken out by the logs and the trees.
Isn't that amazing?
So,
well, this place, as I said before, we're doing this on September 12th, the day after 9/11, and we've had some recent storms, some horrendous storms over the last few weeks. Irene and some other folks that came through here.
Right.
So how high was the water? How high's the water, Mama?
Well, the water, the water was, if you can, where the bridge for the railroad used to go across.
Oh, was that where the railroad came through here?
Yep, the railroad came right up through. In fact, where you drove in was the old railroad bed.
No, come on.
Yep, that was the old railroad bed, and the driveway was on the other side. That came down through by that little red brick building that's up there. Right. That's where the driveway actually was, and the railroad used to come right through here and going out.
And that was the railroad
Moore's
bridge.
Forks and that. Yep.
We got some real history down here, huh?
Yes. So, but it was right over the tops.
So that's what, 5 feet higher than it is now?
At least, yeah.
5 or 6
at
feet
least.
or more?
Yep. And it was coming off the dam just like that.
Wow.
So.
And did these trees come down during that episode or before?
Yes, they did.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Those
came down. I didn't see. I wasn't here when they came down. Nope. I came up here, and
your mom.
I still live in Ross's Point.
Oh, yeah, right.
So came up here, and there they were. And usually, what happens is DEC Fish and Wildlife will come up, and they'll have to use their chainsaws or whatever to get them off, to be able to take them off the dam.
I want to see that project. How in the heck are they going to do that?
I tell you, they.
Does it happen every year?
Oh yeah,
no
every year.
Kidding.
Every year it's like this, and I mean normally in the summertime. In fact, I would say 3 days before Irene came through, you could walk across the river and not even get wet.
Oh, come on.
Right on the stones.
Come on.
Right. That's how low the water gets here in the summertime.
Wow.
And that's why when we go down below, you'll see where he had built a little jetty out into the river to funnel what water he could into the lower canal system. So.
Well, don't forget, for those viewers that may be watching this at some future time, and I hope there are many, this spring was record high water, Lake Champlain. Was this river really high in the spring?
It wasn't any higher than it normally was.
No kidding.
No. In this upper part. When you get down towards the village of Champlain, where the river's deeper, where more water, and then right out through to the lake. But in this upper part, we didn't have any of the flooding up here that they had along the lake and that, because the water level was such that it was still flowing into the river and still going into the lake, where it didn't bother us here.
Now what feeds this? The Great Chazy River?
Yep, and I'm not sure, Calvin, is it anything that comes out of Chateauguay in that area that feeds this also? I'm not sure.
No, it starts up and around Ellenberg Center.
Oh, okay.
Oh. And
whatever
there's
you.
probably some natural springs along the way.
I would
here.
imagine. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm trying to picture now. If we had the late Addie Shields here, she'd say, "I remember, and here's the way it looked in '17." I wonder what it looked like before he got a hold of this in 1937.
I know. I have no idea to what extent it was. I mean, you can tell by some of the earlier pictures or whatever that there wasn't this growth through here that there is now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, these trees that are here, that wasn't as abundant as it is now. Well,
Did this guy come from Germany?
he came from Oshkosh, Wisconsin,
Oh, Oshkosh,
is where
my
he came,
gosh.
and that's where he's buried.
No
When
kidding.
he passed away, they brought him back out there, and that's where his family is originally from, is Oshkosh,
Isn't
Wisconsin.
that an amazing story? How a guy from a German guy who if he wasn't an immigrant, his parents probably were.
I would think.
Come here from Oshkosh and start a frog farm.
Right. I know. What are the chances? What had him come here
Who even
to do
know?
that?
Who even would know that there were such things? And there was some intrigue and mystery surrounding the guy, and because he was a German extraction,
descent, right? Yep.
and so I guess from what Calvin tells me, there was some intrigue at the time as to whether he was a German spy.
I guess that was we haven't seen anything
Well,
for that or whatever, and I mean he was pretty widely accepted
yeah.
here because of the locals that dealt with him.
He was a product of the times.
Oh,
and
yes.
We saw that in the Second World War with the Japanese population
yes.
in California and elsewhere.
Yep.
So he probably lived under a little bit of a cloud for a while, but it sounds like he was a real entrepreneur.
Had to
How
be.
would you know how to do all
I know. The engineering that went into this, once you see the canal systems and the tributaries off from them and everything, you just wonder how he even, or who designed it, and the amount of concrete that's here. There's over a mile of a canal system.
Come on.
In here between the smaller feeding canals and the big main canals and that.
Well, why do you need such a network?
Well, what they would do is with the frogs, they would get them in the fall. People would sell them to them, especially out of Canada.
Oh.
They would set up netting along the riverbank so that the frogs couldn't get in to hibernate over the winter and that.
Aha!
They'd bring them down in burlap bags.
You gotta be kidding.
And at the time, I have a letter from an individual who used to work here. He lived out in Buffalo, and at that time there was a duty on frogs. And
I've heard everything now.
it is duty on frogs, and they used to come down the old road up there. I'm not sure where exactly the road is, but supposedly it's just up from here by the missile base road or whatever. What goes into Canada, and nobody was there at that crossing or whatever, so they'd bring them all down that way, and then he'd buy them down here so much a pound, and and then they'd put them in the pens, and they had different sizes, and then they would keep the water flowing through in the wintertime so they wouldn't freeze. They don't need to eat because they're hibernating or whatever, so they didn't need to take care of them. And then what they would do is they would go out and harvest them, the bigger frogs or whatever, harvest them, bring them in, and they would cut the legs off.
How did they harvest them? Did they bring them in with nets?
They had containers, and I have one of the containers down. Yes,
I should have known.
I have one of them down there where I can show you where the building was, where they used to cut the frog legs off. And then the rest of it they would give to the farmers to put out in their fields for fertilizer.
And that would work fine. Sure.
Yes. Yep. So it was ecosystem back there,
So you have really studied the history of this whole thing.
Yes.
Well, you own the joint. You might as well learn about it.
Right.
And was this guy a successful businessman? Was this project a real big success?
This was a big success. In fact,
because we're talking Depression, 1937.
Yeah,
we're still here.
That's the thing. There was a market for those frog legs in all these restaurants in all these cities.
You gotta eat.
Right. And I talked with one of the individuals that worked here. I didn't know it at the time until he saw the article in the paper, and he told me that he used to work here after school. After you get out of school around 3:30 in the afternoon and work till about 10:30 at night. And Andy Juno.
Oh my goodness.
Andy was telling me this weekend he worked for 10 cents an hour. He got out of school at 3:30. He'd come here, and him and Emil Tatro. And what they would do is Sandy Phillips, who was the manager here, would cut the legs, and then him and Emil would skin the legs and then put them on the trays to be put in the walk-in cooler that they had here to store them. And that's what he did. And he was 13 years old at the time.
Who knows what kind of refrigerator they'd have an ice house or refrigeration?
Ice house. He had ice houses here because he also sold ice.
Wow.
And
this is getting better by the minute, Bobby.
and he sold frogs along with buying them.
Yeah.
So, but he had his ice sheds to store the ice in, and then he would use it he had a big walk-in freezer type thing with the big oak door and everything. It's where they stored them.
He cut his own ice right out of the pond here somewhere.
Wouldn't doubt that's possibly what he did.
It was a different time, a different age. Technology isn't what it is today. Wasn't what it is today. However, they found a way to do stuff.
Oh yes, yeah.
Transporting this stuff miles and miles and miles.
Yep.
I don't know if they had refrigerated trucks in 1937.
I don't know myself. That's before my time.
Real big operation. And they hired local kids, local people.
Yep.
I wonder how big a staff there was at the height of the operation.
I think he in his letter, and I have the letter here. Let me just.
Yeah, take your time. We're with Bob St. John at the Frog Pond or the Frog Farm or whatever.
Yes.
Have you given an official name?
It's the Frog Farm.
The Frog Farm.
Right, yeah.
It's an operation that, I don't live that many miles away, and I wasn't familiar with it, and I did not watch the Bob Venn show with Calvin 17 years ago.
A lot of people
It's a treasure.
Not aware of it. A lot of people.
It's a real treasure with a lot of history, and as you said, the railroad went right through here.
Yes.
But as far as when they shipped the frog legs, they took them maybe to Rouse's Point.
Yes,
D&H.
that's what I understand, is they took them to the D&H and they would ship them from there. And then Mrs. Lamberton, who was the secretary here in that, she would even take them up to Montreal. She would haul them up to Montreal herself.
No kidding.
Yes. Yeah, that's what Andy was telling me this weekend. So
now you said he began to develop it in 1937.
1937, yes.
And brought a partner with him from Oshkosh.
Yes, Sandy Phillips.
Yep.
He was the manager here, and he came here with him. From what Andy was telling me is that he was working for Mr. Neunfeldt out there in the Wisconsin area.
You don't know if they raise frogs out there.
I have no idea. I wish I could,
there's scheming going on all the time. There are people saying, what are we going to do to start some jobs in the area? And these guys, this was still in the throes of the Great Depression in 1937.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And somebody was writing about going east, young man, and or west, young man. They decided to go east.
Yeah.
And came here. And how long was this in operation?
Up until in full operation, from what I can gather, up until his death in 1954.
Oh, so it ran quite a long time.
Ran quite a long time. Mr. Tatro, who I had received a letter from explaining the operation, stated that he had worked up until World War II, and then he enlisted in the service, and so he doesn't know much about it after that point. But from the newspaper articles that I have researched, up until 54, and then it was a limited operation run by his secretary, and I guess it kind of went into his son's name, Richard. And at that point, it was called, the Richard Neunfeldt Farm.
Oh, really?
And then I discovered that they had an auction here from that was ordered by the sheriff of the county.
Oh.
So they had an auction, and also at that time there is a. It looks like the property was referee's deed given to this Mrs. Lamberton. And then that's when Clifford and Della LaPlante bought it from her. So, but the operation kind of ceased through the early 50s. So.
That's an amazing operation, and you've been racking your brain trying to find things in the letter, but your best guess is they had about a dozen employees.
Yes, about a dozen employees, and they were paid 25 cents an hour. Now with Andy and Emil Tatro that used to work with them, they were paid 13 cents an hour.
Oh, 13 cents. Well, it wasn't slave labor, but it wasn't far above that. Some people were glad to get a quarter an hour, 13 cents in 1937.
Yeah.
I know my mother worked in a laundry in the late 30s and early 40s, and the most she ever made was 41 cents an hour. Then the laundry burned down along with all of our clothes.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's a whole other story entirely. But you've made it a project to study the history. I mean, you're a native of this area, right, Bob?
Yes.
You were
brought in Ross's Point. Yes. Yep.
And you've been intimately involved with the history of this place for a long time, working in the public sector and so on and so on. Well, you've made it a real project to learn the true history of this place.
Yes.
Are there chapters yet to be written?
If I can get more information to where we can get more into detail, that's what I'm looking for. And I'm also looking for if anybody out there has any pictures of this place when it was in operation. If just a copy of those, I'd be willing to pay for them, because, whatever we can get to show what this operation was, you can only just imagine now with what's here.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and the power of Hometown Cable and that guy Calvin Castine behind the camera, just by dint of his hard work since the early 1980s, filming things in this area, people pay attention.
Yes.
And there's a little old lady, a little old gentleman who's got a 15 or 20 from the Kodak Brownie way back when in a drawer somewhere. And, those treasures can be unearthed just by virtue of this program.
Yes.
Could they contact you, Bob?
They can contact me. My home phone is 297-6489. And I'm also, it's rstj@mail.com.
That's easy.
So, and they can contact me, and if they have anything, I'd be more than willing to, meet with them and make copies or whatever.
We'll be very, very interested to see if somebody comes through. Because there have to be viewers in this area, of which we have many, who have memories, or their fathers or grandfathers or grandmothers told them, oh, yeah, I used to work up there. I got these pictures. I never knew what that was till now. Wouldn't that be great?
The letter that I got from Mr. Tatro, who at that time when I didn't get it, Ron and Mom did, from North Tonawanda out by Buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
Was because of the article and what Calvin had done on Hometown. And, so that information got to him, and he in turn wrote that letter and gave us more information than what was available when Calvin and Bob Venn did the first one on.
I can see you creating a monster here to the point where you're going to have a little ticket shack up by the corner. A Frog Farm Interpretive Center right over here in the field.
We have had
very Natalie dressed guides.
Through the Clinton County Historical Association, I have had a tour here already.
Oh, you have?
Yes. Yep.
And you're willing to do that?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
In fact, I was
being facetious before.
No, but that's true. It's anything that I can help with local history or whatever to let people be aware of what is in the area. I'm all for just taking the time. And,
bless you for doing that, because Calvin and I have spent a lot of time talking about history, and he remembers the details far greater than I.
Oh, yes.
I can't remember names or anything, so every day is like a new adventure for me.
Yeah.
Oh, we did that yesterday? Well, let's do it again. But I'm guessing with great surety that people are watching this program and saying, get in here. I want you kids to see this. Did you know there was a frog farm in Champlain on the Perry's Mills Road?
Yeah.
So you've collected quite a bit of stuff.
Yes.
Some photographs.
Some photographs that I've had of some of the couple of the floods that we've had here. Photographs of what the building, one of the main building that was there, where they used to take the frog legs,
right.
And and that building had to be torn down because it got into such disrepair.
Sure.
So, but the slab and everything is still there. But I have a picture of what it looked like before it got torn down. I mean, it was it was nice. A couple pictures, you can just see the ice houses a little bit, But like I said, again, there's not too many pictures that are
if we
here.
ever get this great nation of ours back on its feet, maybe you'll get a $10 million grant.
Oh, yes, yeah.
You can recreate that building. I can see this.
I'd just like to recreate the canal system.
Wouldn't that be something?
Just to be able to clean them out, and with the debris over the years with the ice storm.
I can't imagine what a job that would be.
It would be
maybe
phenomenal.
Get a college class to come down here and... it's just a wonderful idea, because this was far more extensive than just what we can see here, right?
Right. Yeah, well, there's a total of 6 acres of property here.
Wow.
And so you're looking at, with the jetty that comes out into the river and the wall that he built, and the canal system, and it covers, I would dare say, in and out of at least the 4 acres, anyway.
There have got to be official papers filed with some local offices about when this place was originated. They had to have, I don't know what kind of permits back in those days.
Right.
But
if any.
besides sneaking across the border, there must have been a way. There had to be some official paperwork.
I would think so, yes.
Filed somewhere.
I haven't really delved into that yet.
You've done a lot, Bobby, so far. That's amazing. So you do have pictures. We're looking over here, and you have, what have you got over here? Maybe we can take a look at it.
This was the original article in the paper. And then this right here.
That was the original article. Oh, Saturday, November 28th, 1992, the Press Republican. Okay.
Right. Yep.
Point everything else.
And so this right here was the building. Underneath here is where they used to cut the frog legs off.
Oh.
And there's 3, you can see here.
It didn't look like it was in such bad shape back then.
Back then it wasn't, but over the years, not being in use or whatever, started caving in and everything.
Right.
So we had to tear it down. So, but that's where that building was on the slab.
Right.
These were the ice houses.
Gotcha.
You can just see them right there.
Yep.
So, and this is the same building.
I see it.
On that side, and that was just a tool shed,
right?
Type thing, which is still standing, which will be the next thing coming down.
Oh boy!
So.
It's a shame to see the old buildings coming down.
But you can see these canals had buildings on top of them.
Oh yeah.
See, so they would go down in the canal system as we go through. You'll see slots in the canal system. What those were for was to put screens in so they could separate the frogs by size. And also to keep just so many in there so they wouldn't pile on themselves and suffocate. So, but you can see, this is the old Whiteside Dam here. I don't know if you can pick this up, Calvin. I don't know
he can get it, sure.
So, these are the 3 ice sheds here, which you see there.
Right there, okay.
Which is right over on the side.
I got it.
There. This was the main house.
Is this a drawing that comes from back then?
Yes.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes, this is an actual drawing from when they did the surveying or whatever you want to know.
Okay.
So they had what they called the mill race, which is still there on the other side. That's where the village of Champlain used to get their water
Come on.
before they went to their well system.
Wow.
They used to just flow in, and then they had pumps, and they would pump it. There used to be a water tank out there.
Yeah.
And this was the pump building, the pump house.
I gotcha. Where is that still exist?
That still is
That's the one
down
that's
there on the
out
end,
there.
right?
Okay,
That's
I
down
got
on the
it.
end.
Okay.
They don't use it anymore
Yeah.
because now they have a well system. But so anyway, they had a valve box here to supply the water to this upper canal, which we'll see down there, and it flowed into another valve box from a pond. There used to be a pond down there, and it would flow in and then into then they had valves in there also to put the water in. They would keep the water in there to get it to a certain pH for the frogs and everything.
Sure.
So, it wasn't where you just let the water in to the frogs,
Sure.
because you want to make it's clean, it's got the right, so, and then, like I said, they've got the other canal system. That's this one down here on the bottom, down here.
Right.
And they had two supports here. They had a water wheel.
No.
Oh, they had a metal water wheel.
Son of a...
And they would in the wintertime they would pull it out so that way the ice wouldn't take it out or whatever.
Right.
What they did was the people would bring the frogs in these burlap bags. They would take the burlap bags and put them on this water wheel with a screen to wash them out, and then give them back to them, so that way it was always clean bags, so they wouldn't get it with all the dirt and all that other stuff from the frogs.
So
he would clean the bags for them, give them back their bags.
I thought
to
you were
going to
tell me they were generating power with the hydropower.
No.
Jason, that's amazing.
And then we had 1 year I used to have a little bridge that went out to that jetty system.
Yeah.
And in the summer we had a high rain. It took the bridge out.
Oh, sure.
I never could get another one in there, and so the water wheel stayed in there, and one winter the ice and logs came and took it right out. Down the river it went. Found it in the summer all crushed.
Oh, did you really?
Yes.
Couldn't be restored.
Couldn't be restored or whatever, so. And it was too big to be able to pick up and bring out of the river. So.
Well, it's a good thing that you have these photographs and this story from 1992. Great pictures.
Yep, that was my stepfather, Ron Marquardt,
Right.
and that's my mother there. So.
Your mom's still hanging in there?
Oh, yes.
Still living in the old house?
Yep.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yep.
And you have some other photographs here in the book too, Bobby.
Yeah.
Maybe we can look at those and hold them up to
This,
the camera for Calvin.
Right here, this is when the property was owned by Clifford and Della LaPlante.
Right.
And he had called it the Pine Tree River Ranch.
Oh, son of a gun. I'm going to have a hard time remembering Frog Pond and Frog Pond. Pine Tree River
Yeah,
Ranch.
Pine Tree River Ranch. And you can see there wasn't much as far as growth or whatever at all, because you can you stand up there now and try and look down at the house, you can't even see it, So that's when they owned it.
And that's obviously probably fall or winter time or spring, whatever.
Yes. Yep.
1965 to 1970. What else you got? This is exciting for me.
And then this is after when 1970 on when Ron and his mother and father purchased the place. So, and you can see even here, this picture is taken from down in the back over there, and you can see there's hardly any trees, hardly any growth.
It's all pretty sparse there.
Yep.
Calvin's going to get close.
Don't move.
Okay.
So, and then you can see, like I said, the main house there, and the driveway that went around the front. The pole that was there that got taken out during the ice storm.
Oh, really?
That was down
1998?
Yep, that was down farther down the house.
on the back, or that's all enclosed now?
Nope, that's open.
That's still open?
Yep, that's still open there.
Okay.
That's a little, the upper part is enclosed.
Right.
But the lower part is where you go into the basement and the garage and everything. So, and there's another picture of where they used to slaughter the frogs, take the frog legs.
Oh, yeah.
So, and this is what the dam looked like before they rebuilt it.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
You can see. Look at all the
Of course. Look at the debris. And the
it was
holes
the holes and everything. The where it all just caving out, because all it was just cement and stone. Is when they built it. So, and you can see where it's all. This is taken in the springtime, so you can see the water in the springtime as it's coming over that dam.
Wow.
See, and this is more like the summer.
Yep.
Where it's hardly coming through, and there's those abutments.
Oh.
Right there. So, and then you can see this is where the water wheel was.
Oh,
on
right
these.
here?
Yep.
Hung between these two?
Right, hung between those two. Is where it was. No.
Do these stanchions still exist here?
They're flattened.
Oh, they got flattened?
Yeah,
oh,
they got flattened because when you get big logs like that coming down...
I would flatten anything. I wouldn't want to be skinny dipping in there that day, I'll tell you that.
Yep. And then this is the lower part that's down there as we walk down through. This was in 96.
Okay.
The flood that we had here. And it was so strong that this right here is a cement cap that's down here. It picked the cement cap up off the wall and deposited it in on the property.
See, that's
with
power.
The stone and
is
everything.
That power?
That is power. We had
power.
We had to have Emerson Grimshaw come down with his,
really?
with his bucket loader and his bulldozer to try and put this all back together for us.
Talk about wonderful North Country characters, huh?
Oh yes.
Right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
he was.
I could do a whole show about the Grimshaw.
Yeah.
All right.
And this was the main canal down below. And this property, this dirt, used to be level with the top of this bridge.
Oh boy!
And that's what it did. It took it out. And again,
look at this.
All of that, but it just gouged out the property.
Look at it.
So luckily, that summer, the following summer, the state and county were going around and digging out ditches and that. So we provided them a place to dump it.
Well, of course. We'll take all that fill.
And then we used the fill to build it back up.
Hundreds and hundreds of loads.
So yes,
right?
Yep.
And what pictures?
Yep, that's the main canal towards the river end.
Look at this.
All these railroad ties. At this time, this was a bridge that was there that Neunfeldt had built. It was with dirt, stone, and railroad ties, so they could drive over it because they drove right down the road. There was a road. It looks like a path now, but it wasn't actually a road that they drove down to get to the system. So what I've done is I've put the ties back and then I've built the bridge over it so be able to walk back and forth. The only problem is with Irene, we had to pull the bridge out so that it wouldn't get washed out. Okay. So I haven't had a chance to get it back in, but we can walk around and we'll take a shortcut through.
I'm all excited about doing that.
But all the railroad ties and the debris. So yep.
Well, so you have collected quite a bit of information. Hopefully this program itself will generate some interest in what you're doing up here, and you'll create a public aspect of this. But right now, people privately, if they want to bring a school group down here, for example, they would contact you?
Yes, they could contact me if they wanted to. We just have to set it up as far as with my work schedule or whatever, and be glad to bring them through. What I'm trying to do is clean up a lot of the brush and that, so it's readily available and you can see it even during the summer. Right now, the best time is the spring or the fall.
Right.
Once the leaves are all up. Well, once I try and I keep working at clearing the brush and stuff, so that way more is exposed.
It's a one-man band going, but you have a timeline? Come on.
Oh, yes.
This is way too much preparation for this show. A Frog Farm property timeline. All right, let's get into it.
In September of 1933, Ulrich Racine purchases the property here from Frank Whiteside.
I got to find the history of the Whitesides because I had a high school principal whose name was Whiteside back in the 1950s in Moira. Go ahead.
And then in 1937, Emil R. Neunfeldt and his wife Marguerite came to Champlain and started the Champlain Frog Farm. From this time through 1950, they built the infrastructure and operated it until 1954. And then, like I said, after that, Mrs. Lamberton operated it for a little while. And then, in 65, in March of 65, the property was awarded by a referee's deed to Albertine M. Lambert.
Gotcha.
That was her name. And then Clifford and Della LaPlante purchased it from Albertine. In 67, the Rutland Railroad bed was purchased from the Rutland Railroad by Clifford and Della LaPlante. So that was the railroad bed that you came in on and extended right straight through over the river. And then in May of 70, Carl Marquardt, which was Ron's father, and his wife Edith, Ron's mother, purchased it from Clifford and Della LaPlante.
Got it.
And then in 83, Ron and my mom, Geraldine, became sole owners of the property. And then in March of 2003, my wife and I purchased it. So,
and here we are.
And here we are, yes.
And you're going to live forever, so there'll be a lot of time to see what develops here. And you and I are going to take a walk around with Calvin and his camera and look at the rest of the property. What do you say?
Sounds good.
Great story, Ron.
Thank you.
Well, you can imagine you're just taking a little nature walk with Bob St. John and me and Calvin Castine. And we're going downstream and describe what we're looking at here. You already told us about it.
What you're looking at is a jetty that he had built out into the river to capture as much of the river water when it was a low flow to bring water into the lower canal system. Whereas up above he used it with valves into a pond and that. Well, here he just channeled the river into the lower canal system. And this is, he even has it's banked. It's not just a slab that's in there. It's banked so that way the water coming down, it won't hit it to take it out or whatever. And on the end there are his footprints, his wife's footprints, and the dogs.
Come on.
Is on the end in the cement when they did it.
You got to take a picture of it.
The only thing is I can't get out there because there's no bridge.
Yeah, that at some point in time, wouldn't that be nice to get a photograph of that? Did they put initials next to it?
Yes, it says Marge. It says E.R. Neunfeldt. Oh yes, yep.
Oh, that's great. You got to preserve that. That's wonderful.
Yep.
That's like the $1 Million Miner Dam up in Altona Flat Rock with people's signatures and handprints and footprints and.
Yep.
That's amazing too. Walk out in the middle of the woods and see that Miner Dam. Well, this is amazing, and that cement is still withstood the pressures of time.
Yep. And you can see the difference in the level of the river.
Yes, absolutely.
Where it brings it in.
A considerable difference.
If you look around here, Gordy.
Back here.
This here, he built this all up, and these are all river stones that he took out of the river and put to build this wall, this driveway that goes all the way around.
No kidding.
Yep.
So they could drive equipment down here?
Yeah, that's what of course, back then in the 30s, we're talking, in fact, one of the items that I believe that was up for auction was an old pickup truck.
No, come on.
Yes, when they did the sheriff's auction. I have that in here. There's the article right from the paper.
Buy it? Oh.
It was...
This is amazing.
So they used to drive down and to either through maintenance or to pick up the frogs or whatever.
Yeah.
And
as it is now, you spend a lot of time making sure that this pathway is clear. You mow it.
Yes. Yep. Mow it all the way down through. You'll see as we get down farther, it widens way out, and where I have to keep the property clean. You'll see there's piles of brush and stuff that that I have to keep cleaning out.
It's a never-ending job.
Never-ending.
but it's a
ending.
testimony to one man's perseverance to buy this property and then not just plow it under and fill it in, but to preserve what you can, because it is a valuable piece of North Country history that deserves to be preserved and saved for posterity. I think it's great.
So,
I'm getting a lesson.
It's labor intensive,
by black flies and mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes.
And I don't even care. Let's continue our walk.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
We're at the Frog Farm with Bob St. John, Perry's Mills Road, Champlain. We saw some pictures and now we're looking at the real thing. You see those iron supports over there? I call them stanchions, for want of a better word.
Yep.
But there was a metal water wheel there.
Right, metal water wheel that was covered with, I would say, probably like a chicken wire.
Yeah.
And what they would do there, again, is they would, as the people brought the frogs, the bags would be, their burlap bags, they'd be all slimy and everything, so they'd put them in there and wash them. And then they'd give them back to the people so they could go get more frogs, and it would keep, the frogs wouldn't, be in dirty bags all the time.
And you mentioned that there was a cement cap, a concrete cap right here at some point in time. The water pressure was so powerful that it raised it and tipped it off?
Yep, it picked it right up and it put it right over in here.
Isn't that...
So, I mean, that's... with the rock and the cement that's there.
The Hoover Dam's got nothing on us, Bobby, I'll tell you that. But this is incredible. What a story. And you tell me you normally would put a bridge across?
Yes. Yep. I had put bridges across, and if there was a chance that I couldn't get to it to pull it out, if I'm by myself, of course, I mean, you're talking 4x4s and pressure treated.
Yeah.
So trying to pull it out, and it would the spring would just get taken out.
Oh God!
So I got to a point after 3 of them. I said I'm not gonna, keep putting bridges across.
But what we should tell people is that we're doing this again to reiterate on the 12th day of September 2011. There wasn't very many days ago when the remnants of Tropical Storm Irene, by the time she got here, swept through, and your whole path was covered with water.
Yes, the whole path.
Right up into that wooded area, 4 feet of water. You're up to your waist almost.
Yep.
So it had to be a mess, and you said to yourself, how is this going anyway?
Right? I said, not again. Of course, you can see here, I mean, this was all dirt, just like this, grass and everything, and you can see that it took, again, it's taken out some of the property.
So what was right in here?
This here was this is that picture that I showed you with the building on the end.
Oh yeah.
Right here with the water wheel. That was.
Okay, we'll look at it again so we can see the then and now. Oh, these are just absolutely wonderful. Wonderful little trip here through history dating back to 1937 with the Frog Farm off the Perry's Mills Road, Champlain, and we're so fortunate to have Bob St. John, who not only owns the place but has taken it under his wing to try to preserve it. That's the other picture there.
Right.
But there was a building here.
Right, there was a building, and
let me walk over this way a little bit.
So, and
if it holds you, it'll hold me, Bobby.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a cement slab underneath here too.
Okay, that's okay. Let's walk a little farther.
Go right out. And you can see he had these rails, and of course that was part of supporting the building.
Sure.
That was on the end, and then you can see the slots where he could control the water flow coming into the canal system.
Isn't that amazing?
And in fact, like you see there, those 2 pieces of metal, I have put those in there. Of course, they're just about eaten away, but over the years, because there was no control, it's starting to come in, and you can see where it has collapsed.
Oh yeah.
Part of the wall. I mean, the water flow that comes in through here is just tremendous.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
I mean, it looks like a cauldron bubbling in here. So,
I love it.
But this is where the water for this main canal came in through here.
Oh, it's still flowing pretty good right down through there. That would that would make that water wheel spin really big if it were there today.
Yep.
What a shame that it doesn't exist anymore. What's next, Bobby?
Watch this. Here,
okay, we'll be careful. We'll shut the camera off and we'll follow you anywhere. I mentioned earlier that you take care of this property and come down and mow it. It was all covered with water. There have been numerous floods through the years in the spring and big time floods. But you just mentioned as we stepped down off of here that this was all level at one point.
Yes, that in '96. Before that, I could take my tractor, my lawnmower, and just go from that side over to here.
Right over to here.
Right over to here, and not worry about it being, because this was always at this level.
Isn't
this
that
dirt
amazing?
all through here, and on the other side was at the level of that.
It'll never be that way again, I don't think.
Not unless.
So how do you get over here to mow over here?
I had to build myself a little bridge over on the other side to be able to come through.
Isn't that? This is absolutely amazing. So how many acres were there all told?
6 acres.
And it's all still, the whole thing is your property?
Yes, well my daughter owns 2 of it now.
Yeah.
But it's all
it's all family.
This
let's go down this way. You go ahead and talk.
You see the steps that he built over here? So it wasn't just a drop off or whatever to get out to the water wheel. He'd actually put steps in here to go down out.
Well, like I said, if you get that $10 million grant, you can rebuild that water wheel and have all kinds of fun here. But it's really great to have what you have here, Bobby. It truly is.
It's a nice place.
I try to picture what it might have looked like in its heyday, which would have been the late 30s and early. It took him a while to build all this structure.
Yes, had to.
But did he start that before 37?
No, he came here in 37 and started it then.
So maybe it took a couple years to get it all built.
I would think so, and
look at this.
Where did the cement come from?
Yeah, where did the cement come from?
Where did they make it? Where
they had their own little plant,
did
maybe?
They just do it here?
Look at this coming down through here.
Yep, this is little, and that's what happens with the water coming down without it being impeded.
Yeah.
It starts to form its own little path and canal.
Well, there's a structure up there, right?
Yes. The problem is that has collapsed now, so you don't get too much water that goes down through that portion of the little tributary that would feed it. So it comes down to here. But this was made as a spillway anyway. You'll see that as we get down below where it comes out, what he had done. And you can see part of the cement here.
I can see it.
Where he put it, so that way with the water coming through, would hit the cement and not the property and take the property out. So it would slow it down, the velocity.
Well, he had to have, either he was a brilliant engineer or he had to engage some engineers back in those days.
Yep.
Because it isn't, you don't just walk in and draw a picture of this place and start to build it. You got to know what you're doing. And you can see that the high water was up all through here.
All through here.
Just
this is all good soil because it's all river. You can see it. It's all river sand and everything that keeps coming up. Anytime it floods. And right now, with my bridges out, I'm not able to get back here and mow. You can see that.
Well, it's not that high.
Normally this looks like a golf course.
Yeah.
It's manicured to where you
can
walk
take your word for it. I believe you. But that's a lot of work all by itself, even if your bridges were here.
Yep.
We've seen some old trees that have blown down.
Yeah, those are all from the ice storm.
Are they?
Yep. That's
remnants of the ice storm.
Same way as these.
See how they're bowed over?
Right.
A lot of the birches and other trees just never came back, did they?
No. And a lot of this path, we had trees across it that I had to take out and clean to get this path back again.
Okay, we're coming to another structure. What's
now
this?
This is where you saw the water coming down.
Right.
There, this is what he built for it as a sluice way to go back out into the river.
Oh, yes.
So the excess water that he didn't need, he'd put it back out into the river. So he built this little structure here and line. And these canals are all lined. They're not just walls there. They're cement lined, where it's got a floor and sides.
Oh my!
Where it goes out. So
well,
even the walkways up on the upper part, where it had the steps to go down, they're all cement. They were all one unit. And that's how they were poured.
Somebody was busy pouring cement and building forms, and like you said, I bet you they had maybe they ran their own cement plant nearby, because that's thousands and thousands of cubic yards of cement.
Yep.
Cement right here.
Is this cement underneath us here, do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, look at this.
Yep. Yep. And this log, before Irene, was over there.
Come on.
I had put it over there because it was from this tree right here.
Oh yeah.
When it fell from over there. So I cut it years back and then rolled it over to here, and Irene decided to put it back over here for me. So
there's no accounting for the power of nature. Isn't that truly amazing? Oh, this is just like the enchanted forest in here for me, Bob.
This is down further. The river
beautiful
gets quieter and quieter, and
I bet you it does.
So
yeah,
it's really nice.
So this is somebody else's property here? No,
nope, that's all our property.
That's the end of your property.
Yep, that's all right. We own right to the river. This is all our property here.
Oh,
that's
boy.
where I've got a smaller bridge where I bring my mower through to be able to mow here on this section. But over the years, you can see where I've piled up all this stuff, that whatever, from the ice storm, and also when it floods, it floats out of the woods here, and then it ends up in here. So I just pile it up.
So in the early 1940s and beyond, this was an actual road.
This was a road, yes. This is the road that they used to take to go down to the other end of that canal.
Wide enough for trucks and other sizable vehicles to get down here for whatever.
And you got to remember
they had to do with the frogs.
During the 30s, the vehicles weren't very wide.
That's true. That's true. But it looks like it might have been a wide enough thoroughfare for a pretty good sized truck.
Yep.
Oh, this is just beautiful. And I should point out that on the way down across the lawn, we saw a little baby snapping turtles.
Yes.
That's amazing. So you got to watch where you're walking for several reasons,
yes, right? Right. Yep. It's one of the areas that they, being close to the river and that they lay their eggs, and then it's usually around late August and that you get that they hatch.
Isn't that?
And then they start migrating towards the river.
A turtle farm.
Yeah, right.
Maybe not.
No. So this is my spot here.
Oh yeah.
Under the big oak and that.
Look at the size of this old oak, and it's majestic, and it looks pretty strong. But gosh, you never know, do you, Bob?
Right. Yep. But you can see. Oops.
It's been there for a long time. You lost your watch.
Yeah, you can see all the river sand up here.
Oh yeah.
Where it comes up.
Yeah, these nice little rivers don't always stay comfortably within their banks.
Right.
And in the years just since I've been up here in '61, I've seen far too many of those floods. We had a terrible ice jam behind our house in '81, and you can just see what things do. And this does this freeze all the way over in the winter?
No, it's blocks. What happens is, usually in the fall when you get a lot of rain or whatever, the river comes up and then it'll start to freeze. And then as the winter progresses, the ice will break and cave in because there's no water to hold it up. There's the less water in the wintertime.
Some anchor ice down there, and maybe if we got a stint of 30 below zero weather, I imagine it has frozen over in the past.
Yeah, but
one time or another.
The problem is that the water is so low, and that's where it starts to jam up.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh
boy.
So when it starts to jam up under the bridge in Champlain by the old laundromat.
Oh yeah.
The water's in here, and I've seen where when that ice jam is left, it's like a bathtub drain. The water just
Oh yeah,
into the river.
It's amazing. Well, Calvin's got lots of video of what that looks under the bridge, right, Calvin? Down through the years, including 1998 and other storms before and beyond.
But you can see it as far as the water over the years in the spring with ice jams or whatever. We got permanent reeds.
Look at this
on the property,
yeah,
on this section, because this section here was always got wet.
So not too many days ago, this was underwater again.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you can see here where it brought everything up through here. This is the big bridge that I've built, and I can see that I've got to go and pick up ties and bring them back up here to put this bridge back again.
All right. So what is this?
This is the lower canal that you saw up at the other end.
Yep.
This is the main portion of it here, and this is where you can see. In fact, it's still the bolts that are sticking out of the cement for your. Lost for words here.
Never mind. The bolts were sticking out anyway.
Your frame.
Yep. I got you.
To build off from. To build the buildings. And what this did was they had all these different little canals and stuff that were in here to flow the water through. They had the slots to cordon off the areas for the frogs.
Yeah.
And then this would flow out into the river also. And the upper canal was, what this would do is it would come down straight, and then they would meet at the end,
right,
and exit into the river. So the water was just continuously flowing through.
Like I said before, this is a stroke of genius, some real engineering feat. Somebody had to get, this guy must have had a couple of bucks when he came from Oshkosh.
Had to have, I mean, because you look at the different, look at the cement that is in there, look at the walls and the way they're offset, you know?
Yeah. That's amazing. This has
you
been here for 74 years, or just about.
That's actually one of the, and they're all throughout here, but it's only until you get water you can see them down there too. That's the mesh, the stuff that they used to keep the frogs in.
Oh.
Those were the cages type thing that they would keep them in the canal system. So you can see remnants of them. So whenever we get a flood that comes through here, it just unearths more of it.
Oh, it's got to be.
So,
yeah, if somebody did archaeology here, they'd find some pretty neat stuff, huh? We should get extra hazard pay for the bugs today, right?
Oh, it's terrible.
It's hard to hold the camera straight. It's not because Calvin's drunk or anything. We're just trying to swat mosquitoes.
Not any drunker than usual.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. But you know what? I never saw, there wasn't a bug at home in Morrisonville when I left this morning.
Well,
I should have noticed the swarms following my car all the way up here. They get you everywhere. All right, what else? Anything else on this end?
no.
That's it. All right, let's head back.
Yeah, let's.
Well, I want people to know this ain't Borneo, but it can't be far away with these bugs that are here today, fighting the terrible creatures in the jungle. All right.
What it feels like. Yeah.
What do we got here, Bobby?
This is the foundation of that house that where this one right here.
Oh, that's that house.
This is the foundation of it, and this is where they actually cut the frog legs off in here. They're up on this area right here. There used to be a big lead table.
Oh.
And then that's what they would, so that way, you know, wouldn't dull the knives or whatever, the soft lead and that. So
Isn't that amazing?
Cut the frog legs off, and then, like I said, Andy, Juno, and
You think
Email.
those people inhaled a little lead back in those days? You'd go to jail if you ever had a lead table that big today.
Would skin them. What they would do is, after they would throw all the frog bodies out here.
Yes.
And then they would have the farmer come along or whatever.
Load them up.
And they'd put them out in their fields.
We're not talking 10 or 12.
fertilizer.
We're talking
no,
tons of them.
Right.
What's this thing?
This here this came out of the canal system.
Oh, no kidding.
This here is what they used to, when they harvested the frogs out of the canal system, they'd put them all in here, close the cover, and it's all homemade, it's all tin,
Oh yeah.
and carry it over and cut off the legs. This here was the big walk-in cooler.
Oh.
This is where they used to keep all the frog legs on ice. Was
Yep.
in here. There was a great big oak door. Do you remember the old old?
Sure. Absolutely. Heavy.
Right, and that's what this was their reefer unit. If you
That was a
wanna
building
say.
connected with it.
this was the tool shed.
Yep.
That's what that was. So, but this one here had the frogs would be processed down below, and then there was an apartment upstairs where Margie used to live.
Oh, no
So,
kidding.
yes,
Upstairs over there.
Yep. Over this one.
Oh, this one.
Yep. Over
That
this
building
one.
looks like it's barely hanging in
Yes,
there.
it is. We're going to have to
Say bye-bye one of these years, huh?
get rid of it there before.
Well, you wish you
it,
could preserve all this stuff, but you just can't do it.
No.
You have limited resources.
Yeah.
It's kind of a personal thing. Do you have any help from neighbors or friends when you're doing stuff here? Is it pretty much,
no.
pretty much
it's
Bobby
not a
St.
one man.
John, huh?
Yes. Yep.
Oh.
Yep. That's what it is. It's
Well,
so,
I'll tell you, you've done a magnificent job here. And
we can we'll go up to the big canal where they kept the water for the pH and all that. We'll take a walk up,
all right,
up
let's,
there.
let's do that.
Okay.
All right, in the beginning we talked about valves. I
Yes.
see a valve.
Yes, this was part of. This here was part of that main canal that was up there, where it would feed the water through and everything, and to have it go into the canal down here, which it would do, and then he had the valve system with the piping and everything, and to let the water through. So there's some down here. They were up there by the dam, which are
Right.
gone when they redid the dam, and then there's some over here in this other section where we got the holding tank per se of the water.
There's
But
something
you
right
have-
across the road here.
This right here is part of, like I said, all the different, with over a mile of concrete canals.
Wow.
This is all part of what he had done. And you can see where for the water flow coming down, and then it would come into here and then go down through, and of course how much water, you wouldn't want it taking out the property, so it was all, say, notched or whatever.
Isn't that
So it would
amazing?
slow the velocity of the water down. And this all goes all throughout in here,
Yeah.
you know. And this is what I'm talking as far as to clean it out,
Yep.
you know, so you can see it a lot better. So, and then we'll go up to the top up here onto the where the other main canal is.
Okay. All right, another 50 steps, and where are we now?
Now we're at the main canal where they would bring the water in from this. There was a little pond over here,
Right?
and the water would come from the dam
Yeah.
by way of a valve system.
Okay.
So then it would come in and right into this little reservoir.
Aha.
And at that point, you can see the slots. They would regulate the water going into this main canal through the valve system, and the excess would be going out that pipe down there, which would go out that little canal that we showed down
Oh, yeah.
down at the bottom. And so what they would do is the water, they would keep it in here and get it at a certain pH or whatever.
Sure.
And then at that point they would release it into the main canal, and we can walk down through, and you can see the valves there,
I see the big valve.
where
Yep.
they would, and you can see the outlet over here for the water.
I can see all the mesh down below.
Yep.
I also see numbers on the wall. Is that something somebody added later?
That's my
Oh.
grandchildren.
Oh, 2007, but they did it so neatly. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, they got their names on there and everything, huh?
Grandchildren and some of their friends. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Unbeknownst to me until after it was done.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, now it's a piece of history
Yeah.
for posterity. Look at this. Is that a mushroom?
Yep.
Look at the size of that
Mushroom,
thing.
Toadstool, whatever. I don't
Look
know.
at that thing. I don't think we better eat it for lunch.
No, I wouldn't
Wow.
want to. I wouldn't want to eat that.
That's amazing.
So this is that continuation of where they would keep the water,
Right.
and then you can see where the only way it had to get out was they
Right
had
around the
another
corner. Yeah.
another dam type thing, wood or whatever, that they would open it up and let it out into the canal.
Yeah.
The
Like
water.
I said, this is quite an engineering feat. So somebody had to design this and draw blueprints, and
Yep.
you don't know if this guy was a professional engineer
Or whatever. No.
or what he was.
Nope.
Well, it's possible that some way we can learn
So
a little bit
I'm
about
not-
his
we-
history.
You know, we're not. It continues down and then it hooks in at
Oh, I
the other
see.
end.
Right.
Is what it does, and goes back out into the river. But it was the same operation here, where they
All the
would,
way
you know,
down through.
all the way down through. Yep.
That's amazing.
So
Well, let's go back home and wrap her up, Bobby.
okay, sounds good.
Well, we looked over there at the valves and everything, and then we turned around, and this is where the village got its water.
This is at one point. This is where the village of Champlain. This is that little canal system or whatever that they had to supply their water to the village of Champlain, and it would flow under the old railroad bridge here,
Yeah.
and then it would go down into the red brick building down there where they had the pumps,
Yeah.
and they would take and pump it right out into the system.
And you told us a cute story a minute ago about
Yeah.
about that.
When they did the dam in '94, they had contracted with Luck Brothers to do it. And when Luck Brothers first came down, they were a little hesitant as far as to come in onto the property, because they saw this bridge there, and they questioned, well, gee, is that going to hold our truck with our equipment on it or whatever? But
Yeah.
you know, we made mention that, well, the train used to go over that
was the
same
railroad, baby.
You know, so if
great
it can
big
hold up
monster.
those cars and that locomotive, it sure as heck is going to hold up your equipment.
And it
So,
did, and it's still there
yes,
today.
and it's still there today.
That's amazing.
So-
That's great, Bob. I'll try not to swing my arms during the wrap-up here, but I thank the weatherman for bringing us a beautiful sunshiny day on the 12th day of September 2011. I thank Bob St. John, his whole family, his mom and his late stepfather for preserving a huge piece of North Country history at a place called the Frog Farm on the Perry's Mills Road right outside of Champlain. We've had the Cook's Tour today, worth at least 49 cents, marked down from $59.95. It's been a great day, a wonderful day for both Calvin and myself. It's his, well, he's been here many times, but it's second time doing a full-length show here, right, Calvin? And we're delighted to do it again this year, and who knows?
You're following Irene.
Oh, you were here after Irene, so you might have seen some of the aftermath of what Irene did here in this North Country. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for your comments. We appreciate your monetary contributions. Send a nice check to Calvin Castine in care of Hometown Cable on the Ridge Road in Champlain, and let us know what you think of our program. We'd love to hear from you. And who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner. My father always told me that you didn't have a complete life unless you had at least two of everything that was important to you. We were talking with Bob St. John in real time yesterday at the Frog Farm on the Perry's Mills Road in Champlain, and Calvin remembered that there was an article written by the late historian Marjorie Lansing Porter, whom I met when I first came to Plattsburgh, and she gave me a map with 85 or something like that ghost towns and said, you want to see ghost towns? Here's where they are. And we took our family and visited all of them. She was an amazing and wonderful woman and historian. But Calvin remembered an article in the North Country Life magazine, a little publication from northern New York that cost 35 cents back in the day. And in 1953, she wrote about the Frog Farm. Calvin remembered it, found two copies. One will be going to Bob St. John on the Frog Farm as part of the memorabilia he's collected over the years, and the other will stay in Calvin's library, and don't try to fight him for a copy of it. I don't know how many copies there might be alive. The Feinberg Library might have one. They should have one. Oh yeah, we hope so. But in any case, with your permission and the North Country's permission, I will be reading that article now to stick on the end of this wonderful program about the frog farms, and this will get the frogs and Bob St. John and everybody hopping. Stay tuned. Well, I'm sure when you were watching our interview with Bob St. John, you wondered what E.R. Neunfeldt looked like. The man of German extraction who moved here from Oshkosh, Wisconsin, with a friend of his and started the frog farm on the Great Chazy. And Marjorie Lansing Porter, by the way, was associate editor of this magazine, and Calvin has collected just about every one except two. How many? The first four. So here it is. Shades of plenty more. Where stood his early sawmill over a century and a half ago, a frog farm flourishes, contributing in its own way to the economy of the community of Champlain, just as did the pioneers' use of a water privilege on the Great Chazy in years gone by. 1 million frogs can offer a pretty mess of frogs' legs. Don't you love it? The frog farm, operated by E.R. Neunfeldt, had its beginnings in 1936, when a 5-acre piece of swampland on the north bank of the Chazy, about a mile west of the village of Champlain, was gradually filled in. The ancient stone wall of the sawmill property just below the dam being utilized as a section of the retaining wall. At the present time, a group of buildings, including those for distribution, well-planned roadways, a series of main and feeder canals, cement-lined, level, grassy plots planted with young evergreens, cement-enclosed basin in which moisture conditions may be regulated to stimulate or simulate those of the natural shallow ponds, give indication of the labor involved in laying out and operating a frog farm, and form an inviting picture, tree-shaded, river-bordered. Approaching the farm from Route 11, one follows the private road along an upper level past the residence. Then the road circles back onto a lower level and continues past still another white with green trim building, box department, and on a short distance to a similar edifice housing an office upstairs with refrigeration rooms, car space, tool room, storage room, and area for dressing tables and shop equipment. The roadway also runs along lower level to the end of the property, nearly 1/8 of a mile, on which nearly 1 mile of canals has been constructed east-west and 8 cross canals north-south. Distribution buildings are set close to the inner side of the roadway on upper level and on inner side of the road at lower level. Close to the river at upper end of the intake canal is a small structure through which a canal runs and in which are boxes with wire mesh sides filled with frogs, singing, calling, chirping, garumphing. Frogs are brought to the farm in burlap bags, each containing from 30 to 50 pounds of puddle jumpers. I love that photograph, a pretty mess of frog legs. Boy, they look good for me. Anyway, the article continues. They're brought in to a large extent during the fall months from the surrounding countryside within a 100-mile radius. The creatures with the delicately upholstered legs are dumped out of the bags, and the latter are washed in the swift-flowing river by means of a suspended wire meshed cylinder that revolves in a sluiceway close to the bank. Washing the bags is necessary in order to keep them in condition favorable to the good health of the frogs. The frogs herd together when fall days get nippy and travel inside the distribution houses via canals that are warmed like natural puddles by the sun. Close by is a large cement basin with regulated water level in which the mating adventure takes place during April, May, and June. The basin has an outlet to the river to facilitate lowering water level. Spawning ditches extend north from the basin close to the flowing river, where in years past many saw and grist mills stood, and in which Atlantic salmon in great numbers spawned. The grass frogs, there are only a few bullfrogs, hibernate by the thousands in the winter buildings through which the east-west canals run from intake to exit buildings, and in which boxes prevent them from overcrowding. Nature takes care of all their needs during that period. They require no feeding or special attention from the workers on the farm, averaging 10 to 12 the year round. They're marketed 12 months of the year, from 20 to 30 pairs of legs being prepared to the pound. Waste animal tissue is used as fertilizer on nearby farms and is proving a valuable enricher of the land. The frog's legs are sold both by the dozen and by the pound to outlets not only in New York City but in other large cities. Here is an enterprise built on a native product, a product that is developed under conditions approximating those set up by Mother Nature, but improved, since favorable conditions can here be regulated. And, lest frogs, he thought lacking in intelligence, take note of Mr. Neunfeldt's observation, quote, "They know where they're going, and they'll find the shortest way to the river whenever possible, come hail or high water." What a great article. From the winter of 1953, North Country Life, with a picture on the front called the State Street Hill. So delighted that Calvin captured these and saved these, and that we were able to bring that for you as an adjunct, or a postscript, if you will, to a wonderful tour and interview we did with Bob St. John, the current owner of the property called the Frog Pond and the Frog Farm, right near Champlain. What a joy it is to do programs like this and learn a little bit of history while we're on the road doing it. And now I can say it again. Who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner.
September 13th, 2011, Calvin Castine in Upper J, New York. Most folks 50 and over in the North Country will know exactly where we are when they see that sign, Ardo's Way, former land of make-believe, Ardo Monaco. Our friend, he passed away probably about 8 years ago. This was his home, his museum, and this was where the entrance to the land of make-believe was when it was operating. It was closed because just one, actually more than just one too many, but Ardo had a lot of temerity, so he kept going, but he closed because the flooding, he just couldn't keep rebuilding. And now, years following his death, folks have been trying to preserve his legacy. I believe there are still a lot of artifacts left in the museum, but the remnants of Tropical Storm Irene, Hurricane Irene, just flooded this area and caused huge devastation. This is 2 weeks after the flood, and you can still see the cleanup going on here in Upper J, New York. Across the road from Ardo's home was the Monaco family garage. A workshop in there. He did a lot of his woodwork was done in there during the years. It became other things after the Land of Make Believe closed, but that's, as you can see, just barely standing at this point. And the sad news, really, not that it isn't all sad news, but the really sad news is